Hello everyone, this is the finale of What If Naruto Found Out About Hinata's Feelings, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Naruto was in deep trouble. He had no idea how he would K voodoo without King Hinata as well. Anything and everything he did to him would be copied to her. He couldn't cut off her hand either. Voodoo would stop him before he could. What on earth was he to do? Voodoo, I'm going to completely ravage you, he growled menacingly. Voodoo burst out laughing. Cold, bitter laughter. You have no chance at all, you pathetic fool. Unless you wish to end the life of your love, I suggest you submit the power of the Kyuubi to me. Voodoo lunged at Naruto, who blocked his onslaught easily enough. He could not counter, however, despite being given so many opportunities to do so. He's either holding back or he's a bad fighter, thought Naruto, but it doesn't matter because I can't attack him without hurting Hinata-chan. Naruto suddenly turned his attention towards the ground. A strange rune symbol like the one Hinata had on her. He turned his attention to Voodoo, whom had his arms outstretched towards the genin, the same runes glowing on the palms of his hands. Voodoo smirked and withdrew a short knife from his arm, and then plunged it into his left bicep. Naruto screamed in rage and turned to Hinata immediately. She was acting completely unhurt, however. Naruto looked back to Voodoo, who was smirking happily. Without warning, Naruto felt his left bicep erupt in pain and felt blood spurt from a wound. What the hell did you do? He yelled in agony. I told you, you fool, submit yourself, or I will draw the Kyuubi from your lifeless body. That was my opposite doll technique. Spat Voodoo. He raised the knife again and espered it into his left thigh. Again, Naruto looked frantically at Hinata. Again she was unhurt. Again his thigh erupted into pain as blood spurted everywhere. Hinata looked on helplessly, crying silently. There was absolutely nothing she could do. Naruto looked back at Voodoo defiantly and started forward, drawing a kunai from his pouch. No, that's not what you do, smirked Voodoo. He raised his palms again, and now a new symbol appeared under Naruto. Inside him, the Kyuubi barked out suddenly, move. Naruto did so. As he did, he felt the horrifying sensation of his chakra literally moving towards the strange glowing cylinder the rune created. It centered itself after the cylinder dissipated. Naruto felt sick to his stomach. The cylinder could rob him of the Kyuubi's chakra, and in effect, of the Kyuubi. Frisky aren't we? Mused Voodoo, as he changed the runes on his palms again to the symbol that allowed him to damage Naruto from afar. You'll learn. He pulled out the bloody knife again and plunged it into his side. Naruto grit his teeth. Blood sprayed out of the side of his stomach. He fell on all fours. Submit, screeched Voodoo. He prepared to try to steal his chakra again. Hinata had had enough. She wanted to do something and rushed out towards Naruto. Hinata, don't move, yelled Naruto suddenly at her. I know what to do. Voodoo activated the chakra-stealing cylinder again, and again Naruto dodged. He was 10 feet away from Voodoo now. I'm going to KU, he struggled out. Voodoo again used his opposite doll rune again, but at last Naruto was ready. Just before Voodoo plunged the knife into his chest, Naruto threw a kunai. Voodoo's eyes grew wide as he felt the palm that had still been facing Naruto split in two, spraying blood everywhere. How did you find out, my weak? Was all that Voodoo managed to sputter out, when suddenly, his eyes glossed over, and he fell, blood spilling out of the wound he had created from stabbing himself in the chest. Naruto fell to the ground again and coughed up blood. Hinata rushed to him, ignoring the burning sensation on her hand as the rune receded away. She looked at Naruto, her eyes streams, and spoke to him, Naruto-kun. Hold on. I'll help you. She rolled him onto his back and tore off his shirt. She looked at the wound on his side. It was indeed the most severe. She rolled up the shirt and wrapped it around his midsection tightly to help apply pressure on the wound. Naruto coughed again and looked at Hinata with bleary eyes and a slightly lopsided smile. Thanks, Hinata-chan. But I'll be fine. I'm a quick healer. Naruto was right. The wound was quickly closing. The wounds on his bicep and thigh had almost already closed by this time. Hinata sniffed and hugged him tightly. I'm so glad you're okay, Naruto-kun, she cried into his shoulder. I thought you'd Naruto, with some effort, patted Hinata on the back. I can't lose you, Hinata. Naruto, yelled a voice from a distance suddenly. The two ninja turned towards the noise and saw three figures rushing towards them. Sakura-chan, Neji, Kakashi-sensei, yelled out Naruto, thank God. Naruto stared out the window of the hospital room. He was always stuck here for several days if he got severely injured on a mission. It was insane. So he passed out several times on the way back to Konoha. Big deal. So his liver was cut open. Big deal. Hinata was safe, and that was all that mattered. Naruto sighed, man, to think, I could be out doing something with you, Hinata. Hinata giggled and blushed softly. It's alright Naruto-kun, I don't mind sitting here. Hinata had been visiting Naruto for the past 3 days he had been in the hospital. He had made it to Konoha in a somewhat stable condition, but was held just in case. He was to be released later that night. Hinata had related the events with as much detail as she could whilst Naruto had been asleep the day they got back. Neji seemed to be the most profoundly affected. He had aloud declared he would cease hounding Naruto, for he had earned a kind of respect that transcended the older brother syndrome he had been suffering from. Are you sure that Rune is gone, Hinata? Asked Naruto for the 4th time that day. Hinata sighed and then smiled. He hadn't been able to go for more than an hour without asking that. Yes, Naruto-kun, it's gone. Just want to be safe, said Naruto sheepishly. How did you know? Asked Hinata suddenly, remembering a question she had been meaning to ask him. Know what? Said Naruto, looking at her blankly. That voodoo could only use one rune at a time. She continued on. Oh. That, well, I noticed that each time he hurt me, you were okay and that your rune wouldn't glow. Eventually, I put 2 and 2 together and realized he was limited to just one rune at a time. So I threw a kunai at his palm when he attempted that chest S move because, well, that was just a wild, desperate guess. I never would have expected it to cancel the rune, just interrupt his attack, explained Naruto seriously. He said nothing for a moment and then gave Hinata his trademark grin. Lucky though, huh? Hinata smiled at him. Yes, it was. Good job Naruto, you thought for once, said a familiar voice from the doorway. It was Sakura. Hey, I have other thoughts, said Naruto defiantly. Right, joked Sakura, keep telling yourself that. She smiled at him. You're free to go now. The nurses figure you'd just escape anyway. Naruto gave a whoop and jumped out of bed. He ran into the bathroom, changed and was back out in a few moments. So, what should we do? He asked ecstatically. Hinata blushed. A very dirty thought had entered her mind. Erohina stepped out from the shadows of her brain. Hello Hinata, long time, no see, she purred with a malicious smirk on her face. Eep, replied Hinata, I thought you were gone. Naruto stumbled out of the woods a frantic and sweaty hour and a half later, Hinata in tow. Oh wow, he sputtered out between breaths. Didn't think it'd ever come to this point with you. Hinata blushed deeply. She was surprised at her own daring. Me neither, she said softly. The blonde genin smiled at his girlfriend and pulled her along by the hand back towards the village. He gave a perverted grin and looked back at Hinata. I'm not complaining though, he said, and I wouldn't complain if it happened more often. Hinata felt herself waver in and out of consciousness very rapidly. I. The lavender-eyed Kunoiki began to mumble, she trailed off when she realized she could not find words to express her thoughts, which were, understandably, a resounding, yes. Naruto chuckled at her flustered reaction and picked up his pace. You don't have to answer, he said. Hinata nodded with relief. The two walked in relative silence back into the village. The streets were fairly empty, only a few late-night workers were seen walking about. Naruto pulled Hinata along the path towards her house but suddenly felt resistance. He looked back at her and saw her standing, almost defiantly, looking at the ground and blushing softly. Is something wrong, Hinata? He asked. I was just wondering if IIC could just stay at your house tonight, she said with some difficulty. Naruto looked at the ground for a second, lost in thought. He had no problem with it, he simply didn't know how Hiashi would react to this. I'm perfectly okay with it, Hinata, he began, I just don't know how Hiashi will react to it. I'll tell him. I need to pass by to get some stuff before I head over to Tenten's anyway, said a voice from behind. It was Neji, with Tenten at his side. Naruto thanked Neji. That'd be really helpful, he said. Hinata thanked her cousin as well. Don't worry about it, said Neji simply, I'll see you guys later. He and Tenten walked off. Naruto turned around and walked off with Hinata back to his house. That was nice of Neji, he said happily. It's good that he stopped trying to KU too, said Hinata, smiling. Naruto laughed. Yeah, that's definitely good too, he said. The two arrived at Naruto's house and plopped onto his bed without changing. Naruto yawned. Geez, I'm tired, he said sleepily. Hinata giggled and kissed him softly. I can only imagine why, she said, blushing a bit. Naruto blushed back. You're unpredictable, you know that, he said, smiling. Hinata moved closer to Naruto and hugged him, resting her head in the familiar spot on his chest. She felt more comfortable here and felt herself becoming sleepier and sleepier. Naruto smiled softly and hugged Hinata back, resting his head on his own favorite place, the crown of her head. Within a few minutes both of them had fallen asleep. Hiashi sat in his study, working quietly when Neji came in to inform him what Hinata had done. Hiashi nodded and continued working. Neji gave a slight smirk at the Hyuga head. No fight, Hiashi-sama? He asked, a bit intrigued. Hiashi looked up and gave almost a soft smile. That boy has saved her life at great risk to his own, he explained. To be so restrictive and commanding when he has shown such respect for her would be careless paranoia. Neji smiled. He could remember his own careless paranoia. He bowed and left the room. Let's go, Tenten, he said simply. Tenten nodded and smirked at him. That went well, she said airily. Hey, if I can learn, said Neji, he most certainly can. Tenten chuckled. The day rose gray and cloudy. Auto FN, I love days like these, Naruto frowned a bit. It had been cloudless the day before, now it was cool, with the smell of coming rain in the air. He yawned and stretched a bit and looked down to see Hinata still lying against his chest. He smiled softly, he had to shower but didn't want to wake her. He continued to lie there, wondering they should do for the day. He couldn't help thinking that some event was supposed to occur during the day. For a few more minutes he furiously contemplated what he could do with Hinata, which unfortunately led to increasingly dirtier thoughts. He stopped thinking and blushed deeply. Geez, I've been hanging out with Jiraiya too much, he thought to himself. Hinata stirred suddenly and looked up to Naruto sleepily. She felt something poking her thigh. She smiled and blushed a bit and said, Naruto-kun, you've been with Jiraiya-sama too much. Naruto began laughing and relaxed a bit. That's what I was thinking before you woke up. Hinata kissed Naruto and got out of bed and wandered over to the bathroom. Naruto smiled and then realized that she had stolen his idea. Hey, I was gonna shower, he called to her in mock anger. Hinata opened the door a bit and poked her head out with a tempting look in her eyes. You can join me if you like, Naruto-kun, she said seductively. Naruto shivered with joy. You have something like an on-out-of-off switch, don't you? He joked back. Before he could start towards the bathroom, however, a knock came from the front door. Hey, I better answer that. You enjoy your shower, he said, a hint of disappointment in his voice. Hinata nodded, a bit disappointed too. She didn't tell Naruto, but she had woken up a bit aroused as well. Naruto walked over to the front door and opened it. Oh, Sakura-chan, what you doing over here so early? He said to the pink-haired nin. Sakura raised an eyebrow. You didn't forget that there's a village-wide scavenger hunt today, did you? She asked the forgetful blonde. Well, if I say I did, will you be angry? He asked tentatively. Sakura chuckled. It's too early to be angry, she said, you got off lucky. Anyway, Tsunade told us that we had to participate to encourage other ninja in our age group to join. Naruto nodded. What time then? In about 15 minutes actually, said Sakura. Hinata chose this moment to come out, wearing a damp white t-shirt that excellently showed off her figure, and then some, and a pair of white panties, drying her hair innocently. What's in 15 minutes, Naruto-kun? She started before noticing Sakura. Oh, hi, Sakura-chan. Hinata smiled at her. Naruto felt scared. Ah, Sakura, don't get the wrong idea, he said with growing fear in his voice. A vein in Sakura's forehead throbbed slightly. Hey, I'm just not going to ask, she said with some trouble. 15 minutes Naruto. She stopped. See you there, Hinata, she added more easily. Naruto breathed out. He thanked Sakura and closed the door. Alright, I completely forgot. Guess we better go to that, huh, Hinata? He asked. Hinata nodded and continued to towel of her hair. Yeah, we probably should, she said. Naruto nodded and told Hinata he was going to go shower. The couple walked casually towards the Hokage's tower to receive their instructions for the scavenger hunt. After a short while they met up with Shikamaru, Temari, Neji and Tenten who no doubt had the same objective in mind. The group talked casually for a while and entered the tower. They were allowed immediately to head to the Hokage's office. Tsunade was finishing some paperwork and looked up at the group of nin. Ah, you've arrived. Excellent. And Naruto, you're actually on time for once. She joked. Naruto grinned sheepishly. I can be on time when I want to. Only if Sakura threatens you, Tsunade remarked knowingly. She cleared her tea, collected the papers on her desk and sat up. As you all know, the village-wide scavenger hunt is today and I do believe Sakura had told you that your participation was encouraged. The nin before her nodded. Be that as it may, there has also been a slight snag in the setup. We have far more older jonin out on missions today than was expected and therefore I need all of you to distribute and hide the items the participants will be looking for, concluded the Hokage. What the hell's the point in participating then, Abar-san? Blurted out Naruto. Tsunade's temple pulsed once. She snapped back, show some respect Naruto. You'll only be responsible for a handful of items. You can still find the items your friends and the available ninja have hidden. Keep in mind that some items should be easily accessible for genin, some for chunin and a few for jonin. She looked at the entire group before her for any hint of confusion. Naruto gave a start. Wait, so, we have to hide these items with jutsu? Sakura replied this time. Of course Barker, what did you expect? Were you going to hide the items behind lamp posts or crates or something? Naruto mumbled something indistinct and said no more. Tsunade smirked slightly and then said authoritatively, if you have no further questions, you have 1 hour to hide the items on the list you'll be given on your way out. When you have finished hiding the items you were assigned, meet in the center of the village for your scavenger list. The nin bowed and left the room. Naruto grumbled audibly as he left. Naruto found it easy enough to hide items from the genin, but the chunin and jonin level items that had to be hidden were proving more difficult than he expected. What the hell, Abar-san? He murmured, disgruntled, how am I supposed to hide this crap? He had hidden the genin level items, a simple kunai, a potted plant and a box of mushrooms, in places that some focus, physical training and a rudimentary understanding of genjutsu could quickly reveal. When it came to chunin level items however, an empty ramen bowl, a small, broken television and a bottle of scented lotion, Naruto had a bit more difficulty. Well, he said to himself, maybe if I swap the light bulb with the lotion bottle and use genjutsu to make it seem like the lotion is actually the bulb, he smiled. Hey, that's actually a pretty good idea. He climbed the pole and unscrewed the bulb and then disguised the lotion as the bulb. He then screwed the lotion back into the socket. Alright, this'll work perfectly, he remarked, immensely pleased with himself. When the items had all been hidden away, Tsunade gave the participants a list of items to be found. Finding items and returning them to the center of town allowed participants to earn prizes, most of which none of the nin whom had hidden away the items found particularly stimulating, apart from one item that so blatantly existed so the older nin would participate it might as well have had a flashing arrow above it, a trip to a world-class hot spring resort. Soft murmuring spread through Naruto's group of friends. The trip allowed for one guest. Naruto didn't see what the big deal was. I don't get it, he said to Hinata, who was only half listening, there's a hot spring here. Why would you want to go to a resort? It sounds like it just adds fluff that gets in the way. When Hinata gave a less than stimulating answer, perhaps, Naruto turned his attention to Shikamaru, whom he was sure would share the same sentiment. It would just get in the way, but as troublesome as it is, replied Shikamaru to Naruto's remark. He looked around to make sure no one was listening. Temari will kill me if I just laze around. Naruto grinned sheepishly. So much for male dominance, he thought. Nearby, Naruto could hear Rock Lee professing his desire to take Sakura with him, who actually seemed somewhat interested for once. She had expected Lee to say this, but the fact that he had decided on her and not Guy-sensei made a difference. And it was a world-class resort. Guy seemed totally unperturbed by this decision, as he had his own ideas in mind. Kakashi. What could be a better place to have a rematch than that resort? After a hard day's challenges and losses, you could relax in the hot spring. He said loudly to the broom-headed Jonin. Ah, right, whatever you say, said Kakashi a bit embarrassedly, looking up a fraction from his usual dirty novel. The lists were finished being handed out and soon it announced the start of the hunt. The contestants ran, jumped and puffed away in different directions. Naruto ran towards the restaurant district of the village, where the large amounts of clutter seemed to be perfect locations for items. He regarded his list, which read, Note, any nin that helped hide items are forbidden to recover said items lest they be ejected from the hunt. Please locate the following. Purple, deflated soccer ball. A pair of bright orange panties with the character for evil written on the rear. Naruto looked up from the list. There were dozens of items to find, not counting the 9 he had hidden away. Why orange panties though? He said aloud. A voice next to him chuckled. Naruto looked to his right. It was Gaara, of all people. Gaara? Asked Naruto. I hid those, interestingly enough, the Sand Nin explained. How? Asked Naruto incredulously. Oh, they'll turn up, he responded cryptically. He ran off in another direction. Naruto kept running, more confused than ever. It turned out, or so Naruto thought, that the other nin didn't want to hide the objects as much as he had wanted to. Most of them hadn't even disguised them, just placed them amongst more of their kind or in hard-to-reach places. He had found, among several other items, the panties Gaara had hidden when Kakashi showed up, walking out of a small restaurant, still reading. They had been hidden on the back of Kakashi's left shoulder and disguised as simply the symbol for evil. This turn of events dissolved into an interesting situation which had Naruto stalking Kakashi for over 15 minutes, trying to get close enough to dash forward, tear the delicate off and puff away before Kakashi could react. It had failed, of course, and Kakashi had caught Naruto and almost hurt him, thinking him to be an assailant. Naruto, the hell are you doing? He asked, dangling the blonde idiot by his foot. You've got women's delicates on your shoulder, shouted Naruto in frustration at having failed a simple sneaking mission. Kakashi patted his back and felt nothing. Naruto worked himself loose, turned his dense teacher around and tore the panties off his back. He spun Kakashi back around and brandished the unmentionables in front of his face. You see, he said loudly. At this time, a group of girls had chosen to walk by and take in the scene of Naruto waving orange underwear in front of Kakashi and began laughing and hurling invectives at the two. Naruto gave a groan of annoyance and ran off, leaving his teacher utterly confused. Meanwhile, Sakura had taken to finding Naruto's items, as they would most likely be the most obvious. This was not the case. She had found an inexcusably large amount of pathetically hidden items, but none were on the list Naruto had been given. Wow, it looks like that Barker actually tried to hide the items well, she said to herself, a bit impressed. Neji and Hinata were barred from using their Byakugan in the hunt, and it proved to be taking its toll. Neji was an excellent ninja and adept at sensing chakra signatures even without the bloodline trait, but because so many items were hidden without chakra, it was like finding a needle in a haystack. He couldn't get too angry though, as he had decided to simply put items in hard-to-reach places that required physical skill more than anything. Damn it, didn't anyone use chakra? He cursed aloud. Suddenly, he noticed something. The light post was emitting the faintest signal of chakra. He grinned to himself. Someone had after all. He looked up at the post and saw the light bulb. It was the source of chakra. Perfect. However, night had fallen, and the light post turned on by schedule at a certain time. Now was that time. The light post sent a surge of electricity into the socket, and as poor a conductor of electricity that plastic is, the sheer amount of it burst the bottle, shattering the genjutsu and leaving Neji to contend with a slippery, lilac-smelling mess, most of which had taken residence upon his face and chest. Rock Lee seemed to have been the most competent for this scavenger hunt, what with the items being hidden in places his amazing stamina allowed him access to, but Lee was a tirelessly predictable man, A good-natured, determined man, but a predictable one nonetheless. After finding 3 items hidden high atop the streets on roofs, he expected the remaining items would be hidden cleverly with chakra-based jutsu and took to carefully examining and overturning every possible item that could have been disguised as something else. He found nothing in this manner. At roughly 11 o'clock, the hunt was nearing its end. The easy and medium items were found very easily by the less experienced Genin and Chunin, and only the Jonin rank items remained to be found, but because they were hidden away in places only the hider would have expected to find them, very few of them had been found. Naruto returned to the center of the village to find a rather depressed party waiting for him. No one had found more than 4 items, and half of the people had used their significant other as a source to find the items they had hidden. Kakashi hadn't found anything at all and looked damned proud. Actually, I found about 20 items trying to get away from the other scavengers, he said to a stunned group of nin, but I'm not exactly interested in going to a hot spring resort, and even less interested in having Guy pester me until I invite him. Naruto dumped the items he had found into the basket with his name on it. He had found 11 items, half by luck, the other half by, actually, he had found everything with luck. While running around trying to escape the giggling girls who continuously called him a pervert, he had taken to using roofs and other places off the beaten path to navigate the town and in doing so found many of the items Kakashi had passed up. He turned back to the group and surveyed them imperiously. Almost none of you hid your items in creative ways. The most creative I found were panties on Kakashi's shoulder. What the heck? Why didn't you get creative? Neji took this opportunity to speak, his face covered in lotion. That is because when you hide things in light sockets, they explode. The group of nin burst into laughter, drowning out Naruto's sincere apology. Soon it quieted the nin and began to speak. Well, seeing as Naruto found the most items, and from what I've heard, the only person who actually tried to hide the items, he and one guest get to head off to the resort. The group of nin mumbled congratulations to Naruto, but remained too absorbed in their self-loathing to say much else. Naruto put his arm around Hinata and whispered something into her ear that made her go beet red, but nod vigorously. The only words any nin nearby could catch was, mixed bath, public indecency, good thrill. Naruto-kun, a hot spring resort is meant for relaxation, said Hinata nervously. That's for when you're older. When we're through with this vacation, you're going to need another, and probably bed rest, because we sure as hell won't be using a mattress for rest, said Naruto mischievously. Hinata blushed bright red again and gave a small nod and indulgent smile. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.